How to be attractive, confident, and vulnerable.
I'ma tell you about a woman whose heart is sunshine, whose body burned hot. I'ma tell you about a woman who's cold as tundra, with some frozen eyes. I can tell by the way she moves that she cares and it's
Welcome to the C Note Show. Cynthia and I run this show because we want there to be humor and fun along with learning about how to have a better relationship. You know, we may be in free fall like I was emotionally in 2015. 2015 was the worst year of my relationship life. I experienced my ex was unfaithful that year. I found out about it that year. Went through therapy for 6 months and basically made as the bad guy the entire time. She was the victim. I was emotionally abusive, for those of you that have heard that. And then we separated and got divorced in 2015. And so that was, 2020 for Scott Burns. Yeah. 2020 is the worst year of relationship life. Well, welcome to the club, guys. So we're in here because we've experienced, as Steve Horseman likes to say, death by female, or we may be experiencing death by female right now. And so we're here, Cynthia and I are here to host this show in a live way, in a fun way. I love hosting this. I've got some movie clips that are kick-ass for us today. Got some Chevy Chase for Kent. Shout out to Kent in Minnesota. And so say hi. Yeah, that's right, Kent. So say hi to the guy, Cynthia, please.
Hey, good morning. Ken, I love your fist pump in the air. That made my day. Hey, I am every day and in such appreciation of getting to be here and to hear your stories and answer your questions. I love learning as well as I love being in this coaching role, and I fully appreciate this invitation to be in this very incredible group of men. Not for a moment do I ever take that for granted. That is very unique and special. So thank you so very much.
So we're here to get more hugs, kisses, affection, and sex, regardless of where you are right now in the relationship. Okay. And yes, that is absolutely possible. I had a man that I spoke with yesterday use the word impossible twice within about a 2-minute span. And I said, whoa. Like, hey, you may not be able to see the end of the road. You may not know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, which there is. And I'm going to walk you there in our coaching, but no fair saying the word impossible, because we don't know what's fucking possible. I didn't know that Cynthia and I were going to be shooting this show every day for an hour. And we're almost 3 weeks of recording. We've had 3 or 4 Sunday recordings as well, Cynthia. So we have 20 hours of recording already this month. But Cynthia, did you think that we would be kicking ass? I'm loving this show. This is kicking ass. You guys are regulars here. I love you. And I mean, a month ago, 2 months ago, would you have even thought that we would be putting this much content out, helping guys in this way, releasing our free audio book that we did this last Sunday? Give us some feedback on that, please.
Well, I did not think at all. However, I had very deep desires to be giving and receiving in a forum like this. So, that tells me that even when we're in, the fire of what life is putting us through, knowing what we're wanting and how we want to be of service, what our mission is and what our passion and love is a really powerful, transformative force. And I know that's kind of in the spiritual realm and maybe a little bit in the woo-woo realm. And yet I feel the pull and the power of that profoundly.
Yeah, beautiful. I feel that pull too. And I want to jump right into, I've realized that I want to lead with a question that we're going to move into in the show. So I'm going to put this question out there, and then we're going to go into a Chevy Chase clip from Funny Farm. And our theme of this week is vulnerability. How to be attractive, confident, and vulnerable all at the same time, or in flow. How do we do that? So here's our question. So I don't know my why or my mission in life. I feel like I've lost my vision or my mission in life, either day to day or month to month or year to year, guys, right? So here's the question. I got upset and reacted and feel like I just undid all of the trust I had been building with her. How can I repair this? I'm going to ask you about this movie clip when it's done, and you'll see the shift in what happens. I'm going to ask you about it when it's all set.
More lamb fries. Eat them while they're hot. Andy, that's your third order.
I am hooked, Elizabeth. Call me Mr. Lamb Fries.
Now, there's a man who knows when he's got something good in his mouth.
You polish off that plate and you break the record. 28. That one makes 26.
Stand back, everybody. The record falls tonight.
Look at him go.
I believe he's right. I believe that record will fall tonight.
27.
It stood at 28 for nearly 2 years now.
That long? Go for it, Andrew.
28.
That's a tie. $29, the new record! And it's still going. I thought that record was gonna last forever. Most folks just don't seem to have a taste for testicles no more.
Testicles?
Yes, ma'am. Sheep balls.
That's right.
Tell them why yours are so tasty.
Well, the trick is, you've got to clip them off way up high.
Uh-oh. Looks like we got trouble here. I knew you should have explained these things better in the menu.
The trick is to clip them way up high. That's the trick. That's the trick. So what happened with Chevy Chase there? Obviously he was enjoying, and then all of a sudden the story in his mind of what was going on there shifted dramatically, right? The story in his mind shifted dramatically. And so let's jump back to our question of today. The starting question of today is, I got upset and I feel like I just undid all of the trust I'd been building with her. So he feels like that. That's a story. That's a story that he's telling himself, right? And so the opposite of Chevy Chase there, Chevy Chase has a great story in his mind. Oh, these are meatballs or something, and they're so good. And all of a sudden the story is, holy shit, I'm eating testicles. Okay. So the opposite of that is this question of, I feel like I just undid everything in my life and everything that I've been working for and reading about and researching. And what am I going to do about this, when the reality is that's probably not true? He's probably making that up in his mind. It's a catastrophe that's going on in his mind. So Cynthia, when you speak with a man, I want to bounce this off you. How often in your one-on-one coaching with men do you see them come to you with a story that has been built up in their mind and is most likely not true, or at the very least they don't know that it's true?
All the time. We are always doing that. There's this filter that we are perceiving other people through, and then passing judgment on ourselves or others. So a lot of the times when I work with men, it's asking them to say, okay, how in this instance are you judging yourself? And let's check in with what's truly going on, and is her reaction, is her thought process, is her lens as a woman a true reflection of you? What do you know to be true about yourself?
Yeah. So gentlemen, I'd love for you to raise your hand. And when have you come up in an instance? Raise your hand in Zoom, of course, go to the participant section and share with us, when did you have a story in your mind and then learn later on that it wasn't true, right? And maybe you got maybe you got your balls clipped way up high because you put yourself way out there and you shouldn't have assumed that. So raise your hand if you have a story for that. I have a story from a gentleman yesterday, if no one wants to raise their hand right away. Or post a question in the chat, okay? Or if you want to raise your hand for a question, or post a question in the chat, we'd love to bounce those off you. And I have some questions from the forum. So real quick, a story yesterday. A gentleman had contacted me about a month ago. He said he was working in another group program, which is totally cool. And he was curious what Great Men Move Mountains is about. And talked with him. I always do the first call for free, right? So we're doing our first consult call for free, no problem. If he doesn't want to work with me, cool. I'm putting my heart forward into the world, just like Cynthia and I are doing on the show. And so he called me yesterday, or emailed me, and we set up a call for yesterday. And he told me the story that he was obsessing about what's in his wife's phone. He had seen some texts thinking that maybe she was talking with another man. And so he somehow found like a hacker online that was going to hack into her phone for him. And all he needed to do was give this gentleman his wife's phone number and her name, and he was going to hack into her phone. And apparently his consciousness, he woke up and thought, I really shouldn't be doing this. And so he called this hacker guy back and said, hey, I actually don't want to do that. I don't want to hack into her phone. And he said, well, I'm not sure why you're changing your mind, but how about this? How about you now pay me 4 times what I've asked for me to not call your wife and tell her what you were planning to do? Yeah. So this guy's conned him basically, or who the hell knows what he's going to do, hacking into his wife's phone, or how he was going to con him later on and try to get more money from him. And he had to call his wife. So basically he had to call his wife and admit to her that this was going to that would happen if he didn't just tell his wife what he had done or what he was going to do. And basically the wife said, I was reaching out for support from my family. This is a friend of mine, who I was just getting support from in this hard time right now. I'm not doing anything with this other guy. And who knows what the real truth is, right? But this is what his wife said. And so how could you do that? How could you hire some stranger and pay him all that money to try to hack into my phone? How could you do this? And fucking got his nuts clipped up high, right? And he just body slammed himself completely unnecessarily with his own insecurities and that churning monkey mind that we have in our head, right? And Patrick says, you always think it's the worst. Yeah, our brains, I'll call on Scott here in a second. Our brains are wired to try to keep us alive, to try to keep us away from fear. So we're really good and danger. So we're really good at guessing and imagining the worst possible things that can happen without actually walking through, if that were true, what would we do about it? Okay? And we're really bad at knowing what's beyond our radar as far as positives or good things in our life, right? In 2015, I was in complete free fall, just hoping that my face would hit the ground out of this nightmare and that I would wake up from the nightmare that I was in, right? And I never would think that, a la Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning, great book. The first 3 hours of his audiobook is about him being in the concentration camps. And now Viktor Frankl looks back at those instances as this amazing growth opportunity in his life, and at those ripples going out into the world of this form of therapy that he developed, and now after World War II, and the positivity that he can then bring into the world after that. And that's how I look at this show, and that's how I look at my phenomenal relationship with Miss Cruz. She and I are engaged. We've been together about 3.5 years. So 5 years ago, I was in complete fucking disarray, not knowing how to do this work, guys. Even though I'd been in teaching and coaching for a long time, since I was 30 years old, all of a sudden at 36, 37 years old, I can't see the back of my own head, and I feel like I'm in free fall. So now my life is phenomenal. My relationship is incredible. My relationship with my 16-year-old son is fantastic. So we don't know the good things that are beyond our radar. It's very, very difficult for our brains to even contemplate the level of positive things that can happen in the future that are beyond the next hill, right? So Scott, I'd love for you to jump in and share with us a little bit of your story or your question. Go for it. I just unmuted you. Go for it, Scott.
Cool. I'm in the car. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, just you saying that story, explaining that, I got a sense of anxiety because, as I probably told you, it was back in November we spoke. I was James Bond on my wife's phone. I was like secret agent. She would leave the room, I'd jump in, I'd know how to get in real quick, and I'd see like all these texts with different guys, and like it was just like, and it was a complete nightmare for me. Just even thinking about, just even seeing her phone or her computer or her tablet triggered me, and I would get this sense of anxiety and like craziness, and I'm feeling it right now, just like thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was like crazy up until like, probably the worst experience I've had with a relationship where I found out, she had gone out with some guy, went back to his house, had sex with him, came home to me, and then had sex with me. And I looked at her phone the
Wow.
next day and
Wow.
saw that she was with this guy because her friend had texted and said, "Oh, I'm dying to know how your night was." The same friend that she said she was with at her house and
Oh
passed out at
shit.
her house.
Yeah.
So it was like, but I was building up to that for months, just trying to find out and trying to think if she's with somebody, what she's doing, so that wouldn't happen to me. And it happened to me. And then I kind of sat back and said, I'm still breathing. I'm still here. That really sucks. And I'm like super bummed. But at the same time, I'm still here. And since then, I don't get that anxiety because she's moving out like slowly. But it's been like a weight off my shoulders because that was just such a torturous, you know, 6 months of my life. Just trying to be James Bond and trying to find her, doing something bad, even though I didn't want to. It was the weirdest situation. I've never felt that in my life.
Yeah. So Scott, looking back, what advice would you give yourself back then of how to, I'm assuming that you wouldn't do it again. Is that what you're saying? If you had to do it
Yeah,
over? Okay.
yeah, I
So what
would.
advice would you
Yeah,
give? What advice would maybe you give another man in that spot? It's like,
yeah,
okay, I don't do this. What should
yeah.
I do? We got to replace it with something positive, right? What
I
should,
agree. I would be open with her and speak and say I feel us drift apart. I sense our intimacy is not there, and I'm feeling maybe you are craving, or not, maybe not craving, but you are um, yeah, flirting around. I don't. It's hard to put in words. But I would try and be honest and try and get to the point because I would not, and I would read her texts and I would see something I didn't like, and then I'd just be a dick afterwards to her, and she would
mm.
feel it. She's like, "Why are you being a dick?" And and then
Cause
I
you just
told her,
got dick. That's what.
yeah,
No.
no, not that time, but yeah,
All right.
yeah, but it was. See, I'm still like have anxiety right now. It's weird. But but yeah, it just once I actually I talked to her about it, and I told her what I had done and that I'd been looking at her stuff, and she got embarrassed and sad and like mad and all the emotions. And then I was more bummed that she just basically straight face lie to me. Even if she wasn't going to go have sex, it was like she was going to go meet somebody, and she'd be like, "Oh, I'm doing," and have this whole story, and I'm just looking at her like, "Fuck, bitch." I mean, not to be a
Yeah.
dick.
Well, let me
But
no, no.
it
I
was
don't think
crazy.
anyone. I don't think anyone here thinks you're a dick, Scott.
I mean,
Let
it
me
was
ask
like
you.
it. Yeah, sorry, keep
I was
going.
gonna. Let me ask you a question, and I want to bounce something off of Cynthia with this.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Um, how did you decide that that's not a relationship you wanted to stay in? That's the question I want to ask for you. How did you decide that? And Cynthia, I know that men are also thinking, how could a woman do that? How could a woman get to that point in relationship? And by the way, even if Scott doesn't want to hear what you have to say, I think he
I
would
do.
welcome. Okay, he would welcome it. So Scott, you just press pause for a moment on how did you decide? I'm going to mute you for 1 minute, Scott. I'll ask you in a second, Scott, how you decided that that's not what you wanted, how you moved forward from that and value within yourself. But Cynthia, help us understand, right? Let's dive into some feminine psychology here. How could a woman do that?
So if she meets another man's energy and that man is suddenly sharing something with her or connecting with her on a level that she has been deeply wanting and maybe has tried to activate or talk about or just knew wasn't a part of her current relationship. If that need he is meeting is so profound and in her mind the thing, the experience that she's been craving or hungry for or looking for since she was a teenager. There Allison Armstrong's really good about saying women do not have honor. And whereas a man would, you know, hold fast and be steadfast to his woman and not want to disrespect the relationship space. Women are honorable to their emotions. And so if this other man is invoking in her such a different way of connecting, such a shift into her femininity, such a way of being seen or known, or that she can share part of her that is deeply understood. That is why the river of her wants to then flow into someone else's riverbanks.
So Scott, how does that hit you? Just be honest with us.
I mean, I understand that. She did have connections with other guys, especially from school. You know, like I said, future doctor, sexy surfer guys. But it was more. She told me afterwards because I called her out and I said, "You need to get the fuck out of here." You know, she packed up her stuff and she left, and I was just like, you know, like I I don't really explode much, but I was extremely pissed, of course. But she told me I needed to go fuck anybody else but you. And I was like, okay. And it really like it hit hard, you know. I was just like, oh my God, you know, not even remorse. Like I just, you know, because I called her out. I called her mean before because she had met a guy over New Year's and they had like kissed and stuff. And she told me right about it right after because we'd already been broken up, but I wanted her to stay at the house for some reason. I don't know. So, so she told me about that, and then she was like, "I need to go meet him again because you know I want to see if it's anything." And I'm like, "Well, that fucking sucks, but okay, you know." And she did, and then I said, "If you kiss him, don't come back and kiss me." And then she came back and kissed me on lips and stuff, and then I realized that they were actually like, you know, hooking up. And I don't know if they had sex yet or what, but she had. So I called her mean for that. And then the night she had met the bartender guy, a different guy, she came home and she was kind of still buzzed. It was 4 a.m. She's like, I'm not mean. I'm not mean. And then we had sex. And I was like looking back, I'm like, are you just trying to punish me? I mean, I didn't do anything that bad. I was absent-minded. I didn't do what I wish, not wish, but I know I can do in a relationship. But she just like tore me apart. I'm like, fuck, you know? But ever since I decided not to look at her phone anymore and that I, as a person, can grow past this and I could actually trust again, I know I can. I just feel much better. You know, like I said, I answered a few questions that someone posted to me and I just like, it was like a light switch. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep going. So that's it.
So I'd love for Cynthia to jump in too, but so what's the value that you put your fucking stake in the sand around for yourself as a man to move forward from that, to break away from her? Like, what do you believe about yourself?
Oh, I mean, I was so down and out. I would look at every guy and say, oh, that guy can fuck my wife better, you know, or like, it's like weird stuff in my head, like every guy I saw. And I finally just, you know, looked in the mirror and I'm like, you know, you have value. You, you have these two boys that love you and you can hang out with them every day, especially right now in quarantine. And we go out, we have fun, man. And I'm like, you know what? I was putting all my eggs in her basket and saying, here, hold my nuts, you know, clip them up high, please. You know, no pain. And I did that. And then I'm like, what the fuck? You know, why did I do that? Because I had so much guilt and remorse for all the shit we've been through. My family put her through a lot of shit, you know? And so I think that I just was, you know, felt bad. And I just wanted to just give her every decision and let her do everything. And it was weird. So she did. She put the pants on and said, hey, you know, fuck off. And I understand. But
Wow.
the pain was rough, you know. She just popped that knife in there, you know.
Yeah. So what I heard is that you decided that you had more value than this, that you're more
Yeah.
valuable than that in relationship, right? And
Mhm.
then what I heard after that was you felt such guilt and remorse for things that, you know, you or your family quote did to her, that
Mhm.
you stayed in that relationship. Scott, I'm gonna put you on mute for 1 minute here. So you stayed in that relationship because you felt guilt and remorse. That's really similar to another client I was talking about last week. Basically, he was angry at the beginning of the relationship, worked on it himself, and then she treated him just like complete, literal dog shit garbage for the next 2 years. And he didn't stand up for himself, or was too like almost passive about it. Like, let me just call it out, Scott, right? Let me call it out and I'll get your feedback on. She's like, well, I need to go see what it is with this guy. I want to see if there's something there. And you said, well, that sucks, but okay.
Yeah.
So tell us what that thought process was about there.
Well, she had around, after I spoke with you, I think in November, and around December, she had finally sat down, and I already knew, because like I said, I was snooping on her phone, that she wanted to break it off with me. So I sat down in bed with her, and she had a couple cocktails, and I'm like, hey, tell me the truth. What do you want to do with our relationship? Do you want to move forward? And she's like, no, I don't think we should be together. She told me that. And she started, doing like the day after, Facebook fucking single, change her name back.
Yeah.
Like, it was like brutal, And so since moving on, she just wanted to alleviate the guilt of wanting other men or to engage with other men, because she had said, hey, I'm done. I'm single now, get with it, or what the fuck ever. And like I said, she wanted to move out, and I just didn't want to lose that family dynamic, even though it was going to hurt, and it did. And part of me wishes I would have let her move out, but part of me thinks that everything that happened from then was meant to happen for me to just get to understand. Because she would have moved out, I would have been a mess. I wouldn't have gone through the abrupt change of emotions and trauma that flipped the switch and made me feel like, okay, I can handle this. So I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but I feel much better, man.
Well,
It's
Scott,
weird.
I love that about you. I so love that about you, that you're looking at this in a positive way and what you're learning. Another guy friend here locally was cheated on by his ex a long time ago now, about 5-6 years ago now. And I was talking with him and he said, I'm not going to thank her for the growth that I now have, but I am taking responsibility for the path that I was on and the path that I'm now on. Just like if I break up with someone and then I drink myself into a stupor and get into a car crash, it wasn't that person's fault that I drank myself into a stupor and got into a car crash, but it was my responsibility. And it's like the other way is what you're telling me. That was shit. And I take responsibility for my part of the relationship and now my own self moving forward. I love that about you, Scott. Super cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, bud. I'd love to get, so Cynthia, let's bounce off again. And I know this is, I know that you, let's say, despise women who don't have integrity in this way. And you, of course, personally would never do this. And, that you just, it's disgusting for you to think about those things. You've said those words before to me, and I get that. And men want to know. So for instance, Patrick said, honorable to her emotions. And he struggles with that. Is there honor in the deceit? And do emotions count more than trust?
Well, I actually really love what Jason said. He kind of clarified. He's like, women are honorable to their feelings. He said, women trust their feelings as much as men trust their logic. And I absolutely agree with that. Sorry.
Sure. So I'll jump in for a moment. Yeah, that's our puppy upstairs. Belle is a great watchdog. Well, on that note, I want to actually roll into. So let's see. Women are honorable to their emotions and feelings, not emotions. I think, in my experience, women trust their feelings as much as men trust logic. Underneath all of this, guys, to just hardcore segue from that, underneath this is our spiritual beliefs, meaning who are we? What do we believe about relationship? And that being so important, the core of all of this. And as we were talking just right there with Scott, his beliefs about himself had to shift. That story in his mind had to shift uh, from, opposite of Chevy Chase, right, had to shift to, well, I do have value, regardless of what she's saying and doing and how she's acting. I do have value. Yeah, Cynthia, I was saying that we we need to be grounded in our own spiritual beliefs that we have value, regardless of the way that she's treating us. And I said that also, like Jason said, women trust their feelings as much as men trust logic. So please pick it up there again for us.
Yeah, and there is a tendency in all of us that we feel like if we have done something, we weren't good at it, that we made mistakes, that we do deserve to be punished. And if we are not seeing our worth and our value, and thinking that, gosh, I don't deserve a lot of good things here, that other person who's acting consciously or unconsciously is going to reflect back to us our belief about ourselves. So changing that sense of self-worth and value is an enormous way to change your dynamics. And I'll say, I dated a incredible man who, um, was he was the first experience I'd had where I felt like he really honored and appreciated, the more feminine parts of me. And he also really, really struggled to value himself, to see his own worth, very hard on himself about previous drug addiction, very hard on himself about who he was in relationship. And no matter how much I honored him and talked like, oh my gosh, the way you connect with people is incredible. The way you connect with me is incredible. He could not own his own worth. And I eventually did move on from that relationship, um, because that energy was not compelling. And it was he was almost asking me to look at him as less than. And um, that ended up breaking our relationship. And one way that he did move through what he was feeling is he did end up cheating on me. But that wasn't even the factor. It was that he was so down on himself and shut down by that. There wasn't this person left to connect with, and I felt very pushed away by him.
Thank you, Cynthia, for that. And I'll add, so and then he ended up cheating on you. A lot of times that is, and you know this, Cynthia, but I'll just say it out loud, is that he wanted to go feel good in some other way immediately and be validated by another woman. And when he was around you, he felt less than, like you explained. And so that's one reason that's a way for a man or a woman to break a relationship, is to go sleep with someone else because they don't feel good enough, or like the other person is so much better than them. And this lower person, like you're explaining, this gentleman, felt like a victim, instead of, well, what can I do to better my own self? It's, oh, look at me, I just feel like shit around her because of my own victim mentality. Is that fair to say, Cynthia?
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that. I want to read a couple real quick things from chat, and then I've got a video from Jacko. If you haven't heard of Jacko, I think it's Will Wilkins. He's got a 2-minute video called Good. And so we're here, guys, as coaches. Cynthia and I are professional coaches that work with men, and we want to give you tools of how to move forward. How do we switch our mindset? We want to give you a perspective and a plan. We want to give you a mindset and skills. So I'm going to give you a 2-minute video that fucking rocks here in a second. But I also want to honor the chat. So it was said, and I'm not sure if you guys always want me to use your name or not, so I may not always use your name in the chat here. And used to compare myself to the question of what other husbands would do when their wife cheats on them. Right? What would another husband do when their wife cheats on them? I asked myself that same question, guys. I mean, emotional affair in 2007, and then physical affair she had in 2015. And by emotional affair, I mean she told me, I love this other man who I'm talking to over Facebook, who I know from high school, who's fucking, he's in Iraq, he has 2 kids, and we're back here in, Denver in our jobs with our then 3-year-old, and she's telling me she loves this other man. That's, to me, is an emotional affair, which she says she loves. And so I've definitely been there. What would another guy do when their wife cheats on them? Either putting myself on a pedestal, convincing myself that I'm a great man for staying. Oh, the whole like martyr, I'm better because I'm the spiritual martyr, basically, or I'm going to martyr myself for my children and my family, and give them a really bad model of what masculinity and relationship looks like, of course, right, guys? Or which is one of the reasons I ultimately didn't go back to my ex, who wanted to get back with me after separating and divorced. And so to finish this, or not wanting to lose family we've built over 15 years, I'm recognizing that neither is growing me at all. So neither of those choices, right? Either putting myself on the pedestal and martyring myself spiritually, or basically not wanting to lose my family and just getting along as best I can. I talked to there's a gentleman out of Chicago, and I won't use his name, but I believe he's a U.S. federal marshal, and this fucking jack dude, like Jacko is here, I'm gonna share in a second. And this guy called me, and we worked together for 2 months, and then he honestly wasn't able to stand up for himself, and he stopped contacting me, right? So he knew what the next step is, which, by the way, I've reached out to him since. But this is the guy that like kicks in front doors of meth houses, and his wife was traveling and fucking other men and telling him about it when she came home, and they have a little boy together. I think he's about 5 or 6. So this federal sheriff or federal marshal, who's this jack dude that kicks in front doors, wasn't able to, quote unquote, stand up to his wife. He didn't know how to stand up for his boundaries. He didn't know the first step, because he'd been doing this for years at the point that he contacted me. He had no idea where to go from there. So one tool we're going to see with Jacko, and a tool we're going to talk about here, is how do I move forward with this? So what Scott was saying earlier, he said, why am I sharing this? Okay, why this matters to me, how I believe it affects our relationship, and what am I going to do about it as a man? Those are the basic steps of standing up for yourself. Now, there's a lot of nuance, of course, and we'll talk about that. And if we don't have time today, we're going to develop that over Thursday and Friday this week. But why am I sharing this? Like, what's my value? What's my spiritual belief around my own value or this? How is this affecting our relationship? Meaning, what's the positive vision and the goal that I want for us together? And what am I going to do? What am I going to do about this? Okay. And that's not a threat. It's a declaration of, if this continues, our relationship won't stand. Our relationship won't survive this. So I'll have to make a choice of what to do if this behavior continues. It's just a declaration, not a threat. Okay, so let me share this video. I need to pull it up here. It's about 2 minutes long. I love Jacko. He's got an awesome podcast. You guys should check it out. Yeah, Jacko, get after it. Fucking another man, good. Wow, that's not clipping the balls high. That's the balls are dragging on the ground. That's the balls in the back of the truck that are dragging on the ground, I guess. So Cynthia, give us some feminine feedback on that video. If a man is facing a challenge in the world, whether it's career or family or relationship, and he, like, this is painful. Okay, good. How can I look forward to the next thing here? What's my plan here? Give me some feedback on that.
Yeah, part of my feminine feedback is right now I can feel the like, oh, this is painful. I feel it right in, my lower abdomen. And I think sometimes the part of moving into the good place, there needs to be a mirror back of someone saying, I am so freaking sorry that you have had to go through this. And then moving that energy of someone saying, I am so sorry. And then being in the presence of men who are on the battlefield and are saying, good, bring it on. I'm moving into my best life is incredibly, incredibly inspirational. Um, I feel the solidity of your truth in me. It's like a tree. Um, the truth of who you are, no matter what she has said, what I would say, or what anyone would say. And I think that's where your power and your spiritual connection to something bigger is such a leadership force in this world. Um, it's like the combination of logic and feelings, and you're using both of them as sword and shield. And I feel incredible respect for that, and it makes me want to raise the bar in my own life and approach things that way. So yeah, that's my
Awesome. That's our sword and shield in life. Our logic and our feelings, our sword and our shield. Whichever metaphor you want to use for that. I love that. That was as far as which one is the sword and which one is the shield. Probably different at different times. Or if my sword is in its sheath, it need not be out, and my shield is on my back. Right? They're just there for me to access when I need them. They're not always out. I'm not always smashing people in the face. Right? I've got my shield on my back. And that's a great little segue. I want to honor the men who have been regulars on our show. Cynthia and I are going to pull the trigger my goal is this weekend to send out mugs that I'm going to totally pay for because you guys have been phenomenal regulars. And I'm hoping that Cynthia, and she will be privately chatting over Zoom here with some of you guys to grab your email address and your physical location so we can send you a mug of ours for free and honor you, the men here who are steeping themselves, you guys, in this work. Because that's a big piece of what this takes is understanding that what can even be done, right? So for instance, we can't see beyond our radar, but if you come on the show, we enlighten all of the fog of war. The radar is huge because of all the men that we have on here and our professional experience and the videos that we show and the tools that we teach. The radar is fucking huge when you come on the show. And that's what we love to do for you guys. So, Kent, Patrick, Randy, everybody that's been on here, you know who you are. If you've been here for 5 full shows or more, I'm going to pay whatever the shipping is for free to get you a mug. Connect with Cynthia over private chat. Of course, don't put it in the public chat. Either that or email one of us directly. You can always go to greatmenmovemountains.com/cnote to contact us, ask a question, or ask to be in our private Facebook forum where you can ask questions anytime. So greatmenmovemountains.com/contact to get a hold of me one-on-one if you want to ask about coaching. Otherwise, Brett and Andy and Ian, of course. I'm not sure who Haas is. It's badass. Is that your name, Haas, or is that just I like that nickname anyway. Of course, Jason, right? And if I didn't say your name right that second, you're going to be here tomorrow and you'll be like, hey, Jeff, I want a mug. Or Cynthia, like, Jeff didn't say my name, damn it. I want a mug. Like, Rob. I know Rob's here locally, and we've had Robs on our shows, and I don't know which Rob is which Rob because there's 2 on there right now. Maybe it's the same dude. Could be totally possible. Matthew, so love you guys. Let's jump back. There's a tool that Cynthia and I have been working on, and I've called it up to this point, Don't Be a Tool. And we've shared that. And I don't think that really does it justice. Number one, because when I was speaking with my client who's in Taiwan last night, he's in Taipei, Taiwan. I call him at 7:00 my time, and it's 9 a.m. the next morning for him on his way to work. And he stops at a cafe to do our sessions. And I said, you've probably never heard the expression, don't be a tool, right? And he's like, he speaks beautiful English, but he had no idea what I was talking about. So I'm thinking, that means that I need to fix the name of this tool. And I don't have a perfect name yet. It's how to be vulnerable and attractive. It's how to repair and reconnect after an argument or after a disconnect with her. So repair and reconnect, be attractive and vulnerable. Maybe if you guys have some thoughts on names, you could help me out here. But it's the Don't Be a tool, and we've started to expand it more. I'm going to share the screen. It's too much for me to talk through, to be honest, guys. So if you want to take a screenshot right now, if you're on here live, or if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll leave this up here for maybe 20 seconds. Take a screenshot, because I'm happy to give this away, right? And this is exactly how to repair and reconnect. And look at that, I put be vulnerable and attractive. I forgot I put that. Or maybe Cynthia did, and I'm not giving her credit. Cynthia, did you type be vulnerable and attractive?
This was in our get together session last night where you talked and I typed.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So we both did it. We both did it then. There's the warm up, there's calling out the elephant, there's then saying what you feel vulnerable about. Then you always have to circle to a positive vision and a positive plan. That could be as simple as I'm going to go take a break. I'm going to meditate for an hour. I'm going to go journal for 30 minutes and I'll come back and we'll talk about this when we're both ready. Or I need to go for a walk and I'd love to talk about this on Saturday morning when we have our Saturday morning coffee. Okay. Or I'm going to make this decision for our child unless you think otherwise. And so please speak up if you have another idea. Otherwise, I'm going to make this decision for our child or for my life or for our family or for my career. So I'd love your feedback, wife and spouse. I'd love your feedback, and I'm going to make a choice. So this is where I'm going now. Do you have any other thoughts? That's a big piece of this is how do I come back after maybe it was a shit show or there was an argument about money, or like this gentleman in Taipei, that the 9-year-old boy had a late football practice the previous night and it made everybody sleepy for the next morning before they went to literally horseback riding lessons the next morning last weekend. Cynthia and I are taking horseback riding lessons too. And it just kind of cascaded. And he was asking me, how do I repair and reconnect? So you've got that screenshot. And the next is the feeling wheel, which I found online. I don't know who to credit it to be honest with you. I would absolutely do that if I knew who to credit it to, but I didn't create this. I found it online. I put it in our files section in the Facebook group, in our private Great Men Move Mountains Facebook group. And I linked it to our, I have it available to anyone who wants it with a Google Drive link. And I'm going to copy this right now into the chat here for those guys that want to download it directly from my Google Drive. It's of course free and it's not mine. So, I don't take credit for it. It's the best feeling wheel that I've ever seen, where you start with the center feeling, and either you're sharing that with your woman or you're doing the boardroom exercise like Cynthia and I teach with your own self. And then what's underneath? So if I'm mad, what's underneath that? Do I feel hurt? Am I just being hostile right now because I'm hangry or something? Right? Am I hating something that's going on? Am I being too critical? And what's underneath that? Am I being jealous? Am I selfish about something? Am I frustrated or furious or irritated or skeptical? And these are words that you can use in the tool that I developed and Cynthia beautifully is helping me grow, be vulnerable and attractive. So this tool I did develop, and Cynthia and I are growing this our own self. I didn't find this somewhere else. This is Great Men Move Mountains stuff. So you guys are getting cutting edge stuff there that I literally use in my own personal life and relationship with Cynthia. I've literally used this within the last month, and I've shared that on other shows. So Cynthia, we've got about 4 minutes left today. I'd love to honor the men. We have other questions that we didn't get to today. There's a Simon Sinek TED Talk, a piece of a Simon Sinek TED Talk I want to show tomorrow. And we've got some amazing feedback from the forum. There's John Ensel's story that I want to touch base on before the end of this week. And I have 2 more questions that we didn't get to today. So we always have plenty of material. And I'd love for you guys to post in the forums if you have questions, or if you punch a question into the chat right now, we get a transcript of the chat after every show. So we will get the question and be able to put it in tomorrow's show or Friday's show. And that's the goal there. So don't feel like you missed out. You can go to greatmenmovemountains.com/C-note to put a question or contact us, or put a question in there now. Okay. And I want to take us out with a Blues Brothers clip, the movie Blues Brothers from 1980, one of my favorites. I was dancing my ass off this morning looking at these clips. And so I'm gonna pick one of those for us. So Cynthia, please, I do a lot of talking, I realize that. So any last words for the men? And I'd love for you to honor them for being here, please.
Yeah. I am really, really excited because as you were describing the feeling wheel, I I heard you say, "Oh, like you're using the phrase I'm mad." And it was like, "Ugh, he's mad." And then you went to explain it further. And there was such a relief and a release in my body of like, "Oh, okay. I know exactly how he's feeling and there's nothing unclear. There's nothing I have to guess. There's nothing he's hiding." And I felt so safe and so grateful, um, as if you were offering the words to meet that very feminine language that it is so feeling based. So I'm so excited to see how this works and moves relationships in different ways, and because it feels really good. So I thank you, thank you all for moving through the mud and the fire and constantly looking to learn, constantly looking to vision the man you are becoming. It is inspirational. You hold up the bar for me to always look to be better. And I can't tell you what a gift you are to this world. So thank you so much.
And Cynthia, I'm sure every man here would say thank you for your grounded, incredibly compassionate, feminine perspective. And I thank you personally so that these men also can see what it looks like with a woman, and talking with a woman and hearing a woman talk about these things, so that there is some type of healthy model and bar for the women that we all want, including me, of course, that we all want in our lives, and that such a thing exists. I mean, and if anyone's done any Google searching and done looking in red pill or MGTOW, and there's this thought of she's oh, I've got the unicorn, or I'm trying to find the unicorn woman. Well, there's no such thing as a unicorn woman. Okay. But what there is are women that are hungry for a man to fucking know this work. That's what women are hungry for. And that's why I'm elated to do this every day. Hallelujah, I guess there. Amen, brother. Something. I don't know. It feels like I'm in church or something. Awesome. Thank you, Cynthia. I love you very much. I appreciate you. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
I'ma tell you about a woman whose heart is sunshine, whose body burn hot. I'ma tell you about a woman who's cold as tundra, with some frozen eyes. I can tell by the way she moves that she cares and it's lovely.